Alrighty. Good evening, everyone. So tonight I'm going to be interviewing Sykopatheist. You guys have seen him around before, I'm sure. If you've been in Mo's chat, sometimes he comes over here. But we're going to get started. So Psycho, how you doing this evening?
I'm good, Kelly. What's going on?
Not much, just chilling. This should be interesting, and I want other people to hear this. So give
Yeah.
me, just to start off, give us a little background about yourself. You don't have to get too in depth, but like where you're from,
Oh,
the area, that type thing.
yeah. Well, I'm a '70s baby. Born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. I see. I had a pretty interesting life, I would like to think. But yeah. I got it. I'll let you go ahead and peel back that onion. But yeah, I got a very interesting history. My parents both married. They was married, um, and they raised me to be pretty much very prideful in my race, so to speak. Right? They deeply entrenched in politics. My mother still is to this day. See, my father also is socially and politically sound. He's definitely more into his religious beliefs today than he was when I was younger. But yeah, but they definitely activists in the '70s and everything, and I was raised under that. My first political activist uh, thing I ever done was handing out flyers for councilmen that was running for office that my mother was helping with the campaigns and everything, and we used to stand out there on the corners handing out flyers and everything, trying to get people to vote for them and everything else. I'm like 4 or 5 years old, handing out flyers on the corner. So that was like,
That's
huh?
no, no, I was gonna say you and Mo have something in common. I think he kind of did that too with his dad. So
Yeah, doing stuff like that, like that, small things like that. But that's what I was raised under. So I was raised under being very socially conscious and understanding the power of politics and how things move behind the scenes. So yeah.
now, now, are you an only child, or do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have siblings.
You have siblings. Okay.
Yes.
So when you say you were politically involved, did that have anything, to do with anything to do with the Black Panthers? I'm just trying to figure out
My
what led
mother's a
up.
form my mother's a former Panther.
Okay. Okay.
Mm,
So that kind of makes sense.
yeah.
Um, so I know there's an actual definition for being, a Black nationalist, but can you give us your ideology, how you feel about who you are and what you would like to see for yourself and others?
Yeah, well, I am a nationalist, Pan-African. Pan-Africanism is an ideal where, most Black people feel like we all are under one banner around the diaspora globally, and we just identify as Black. We don't do too much. We don't really identify with the nations that we're under, like like in this country, America or the UK, Britain, or whatever the case may be. That's why we would wave the flag that we wave, which is the Pan African flag, which is the RBG flag, the red, black, and green. And so that right there in itself, it just letting people know that we are one tribe because we all share the experience coming from slavery. And coming from slavery, once we was in Africa, we was all under a bunch of different tribes. And once we got on the boat and came over here, we all had to pretty much abandon our old tribes and adopt a new one. And we all became one tribe at that point. And that's what we pretty much unify under that banner.
Okay, so when you say that, now I was under the impression that the red, green, and black was like something Jamaican.
Well,
I
they got
didn't.
them colors in they. Well, they got some of the colors in their flag. Yeah.
Okay. So does that separate you from other groups? Now, I'm saying from other Black groups. Are you like separate, or is
Well,
this like
a lot of different Black groups wave the Pan African flag. Pan African, a lot of different movements go under the Pan African flag. It's not just one particular movement per se. It's just an ideal that we all under one banner throughout the Black diaspora, and we all one group of people. But there's a bunch of different ideologies that form underneath that.
okay? Okay. And then for you, what are you looking to see? Are you looking for a like a just a Black only I don't know if I want to call it country, state, area. I mean,
Well, yeah.
what is called an ethno state?
Yeah, ethno state is the more modern, politically correct term, I guess you can call it, whatever. But yeah, yes, definitely. I'm definitely a separatist. I have my reasons for that, but yeah, I'm definitely a separatist. I feel like groups of people automatically gravitate to each other by default, right? Like we have a thing because integration happened and segregation is over, but we still, even after integration, still have de facto segregation, where most people in this country live around people that look like them for the most part. That's the vast majority of people. I mean, like, and I'm not talking about like, like it's no like it wouldn't be any Black people in your town or city or whatever. It's just that most Black people probably live on the opposite side of town than you. And it's like, it's like everybody has their little communities and pockets within cities, like my city, for instance. Like I said, I live in Newark. Newark is a predominantly Black city, right? But we have sectors and segments of people of other races or ethnicities that live within our city, predominant groups. We have a large Latino population in our city that lives, they live pretty much on the North Ward, right? The north side of Newark, we call it North Ward. North Newark is pretty much Spanish Newark, right? And then you have the east side, the East Ward. That's predominantly Portuguese. We have a large Portuguese population out here, and they all live out in the east side of Newark, going out there towards the airport and everything else. And then you have the central, the west, and the south ward, which is all Black. And so the city is predominantly Black, but we have pockets of other people within the city, but we segregated, right? Like we said, like you don't see too many Black people in the east side, you don't see too many Black people out in the north side, and vice versa, so to speak. So we already have this whole idea where we already living amongst our own people, right? Even in situations like this, where we can live where we want to live in the city, but we all living around ourselves. So I just want to just pretty much just take that on a larger scale, and pretty much just and pretty much I feel like ultimately that's going to be what's best for Black people in this country, and that's the best way to gain power. But my separation ideals also is a micro ideal. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And when a lot of people hear my ideals on separatism, they get a little bit turned off, or pretty much they become a skeptic, and they start trying to shoot it down immediately because they can't see it happening in their lifetime, which is true. It's not going to happen in their lifetime, but I never promised them that. My ideals is always based and centered towards future generations and what they what they can possibly have. That's what's most important to me.
Right. Okay. So you don't. So what I get from that is that you are a separatist, but you don't dislike others, correct?
Do I hate other groups of people? No.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I don't got the energy or time to be hating other groups of people. Like, these groups of people exist. There's nothing I can do about it, whether I like it or not. You deal with it. You know, I don't hate nobody. I do love black people, though. I do love black people. Sometimes I feel like I love them more than they love themselves, but I do love black people. And I don't have time to hate other people, though. I just want to focus on my people and get them out of a situation that I feel like, you know, has them in a bind right now, and we need to focus on how we can get out of this.
Do you feel like just only other black people can help? Do you feel like that's going to be the only way? Like, other groups can't help get what you're looking for?
Not when it comes to ideals. I don't believe that. And no, I feel like if other groups of people start coming around and start advising us on things, which tends to happen, we start getting advised from other groups of people what we should be doing, and we should do this and we should do that, and that's cool. But I don't feel like that's what's best for us. No, we need to figure out ourselves what's good for us, and we need to figure out how we should move. And not we've been taking advice since we got out of chains in slavery. That's all we've been doing, is taking advice from people. Well, we should be doing this, we should be doing that, we should do this, we should try this, we should do this, and it's gotten us to nowhere. And we need to take the reins and do this ourselves.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, from an outsider looking in, I think that one of the biggest problems, you know, would be people potentially selling out, okay, to where they come in and, you know, they be on board, and then the highest bidder buys them out, and then they end up screwing everybody else over, if you know what I mean when I say that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always a worry. Yes, nations got to worry about that, right? Like, Hitler was paranoid about somebody stabbing him in the back. Stalin was the same way. You know, we had the whole Benedict Arnold situation happen right here in this country. So, you know, like, nations always got to worry about sellouts, you know, traitors, these things happen whenever you have movements or things that's going on, and once your movement starts getting a certain size and everything else, these become real issues. So yeah, you always have to worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, in your mind, what's more dangerous to you? Somebody in that position, or white people, quote unquote, white supremacy, as they would say?
Explain your question a little bit further. What do you mean?
I said, what would be more dangerous to you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, and I'm using air quotes when I say this, mm-hmm. that a potential race traitor or white supremacy, which one is more dangerous to
me? Oh, it'll always be the race traitor, because those are the hardest ones to see. I can see the white supremacist coming a mile away. He ain't hiding. He's right there. He's right there in front of me.
So basically, do you have an invested interest in America? Do you feel like this is your home, where you want to be? Do you represent America, or are you opposite?
I live here. That's how I view it. I live here. Kind of like if if you was renting somewhere, an apartment somewhere in a building, if you live in an apartment building and you renting out an apartment, right? You know, that's your apartment, you know, that's your address, you know, that's your block, that's your city, but you don't own it, right? Like, you don't own that building, you know, you don't own that apartment. You know, at any time you can move and change addresses. You know, you're not locked into that address. That's just where you live at that current time. And that's kind of how I view America.
Do you have desire to leave, or do you have desire to stay here and build?
I want well, you got different type of separatists, right? Like you have the separatists that believe that we should repatriate and go back to Africa, and
Mhm.
that's cool, but that's not really what my stance is. I feel like my ancestors who made it over here on the boat and sacrificed their lives, their blood, their sweat, their tears, and everything else just to keep their lineage going and to make sure that me and my fellow brothers and sisters are still around to this day. I feel like we owe them enough to at least stay here and fight. So I feel like we should fight to try to get our own piece of land here that we helped create, because we helped build this country. Now, we did more than just help. We did a vast majority of the early stages of what this country became, the work of the hard labor, because all during slavery, most of the wealth was coming through the South, and most of the wealth was coming through the South, and that was based off of slave labor.
Now, okay, I have a question. At one point in time, well, I know there is a specific group in Georgia right now that has land. And I believe it's basically a black nation per se. Now, at one point in time, they had a whole town for sale, 1.9 million. Bank, all the buildings were there. Nobody bought it. And so my question is, where are the people with the money that would even be interested in doing this? Because I mean, that was a whole opportunity right there. I think I saw that on Sly's channel. The whole town was for sale and nobody bought it. 1.9 million isn't a lot of money for a group of people.
Well, it actually is, because when you look at the situation that we're under, because we're under a situation where we have not just the rich people, but the middle class people as well. They're comfortable. They're comfortable in this situation that they're in. They don't feel like anything's wrong. They're not thinking collectively. They're thinking that they're individualists. Most of the people that have this type of money, so they're not. Most of these people aren't thinking on a grand scheme of things, especially as far as like separating. They're more on the lines of let me get mine. If I got mine, you should get yours, and we should learn how to just mingle with everybody else. So they're not thinking about building up black cities, black towns, and everything else. That's not a good investment to them. Bitcoin's a good investment to them, not a black town, a black city. So the problem isn't always necessarily the money per se, is the mentality and getting black people to understand the situation that we actually are in. Because again, they're not thinking collectively, they thinking individually, and thinking individually ain't going to get black people collectively out of anywhere. It's just going to keep us stagnated, because that's what we've been since integration. It was stagnated, because that's what integration did. Turned us into a bunch of individualists, turned us into a bunch of people that was just chasing a dream that ain't even our dream. We was out here trying to chase this white picket fence and this big house with a dog in the backyard and everything else. And that ain't the system isn't built for black people collectively to have that. So once this individualist mindset came into play, the village mindset went out the window, and that became a problem. That became an issue. That's why black cities that's one of the reasons why, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why a lot of these black cities went to crap.
You would think there would be somebody, right? You would think there would be somebody within, the 1%, the 5%, whatever you want to call it, somebody black within that circumstance. Let's just say even I don't know Farrakhan's position. I'm just using him as an example. I've heard a few of his speeches. He's actually, I didn't think the speeches were bad. I thought they were pretty motivational. I'm not going to say that he's not bought and paid for it, because, I have a different theory on all of that. But what do you think of him? What you think? You're not a fan?
I'm not a fan. I don't want to say too much about him right now, but I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not a fan. You won't hear me say too much good about him. Let's just say that.
Okay. All right. I guess that's one of my biggest questions is where are all the people that why won't they help? I get the whole individualism, but I mean, for example, here we just had 5 young black men and women under the age of 30 that got a 66 million dollar contract lakefront that they're gonna retire off of. It's got a commercial property, the dock. I mean, that them 5 people are gonna live good off that one investment. I don't know exactly who helped them, to get that, but
Mhm.
clearly by me seeing that, I know here and other places there's opportunity. Um, it may not be everywhere, but yeah, I'm sure there's other people that feel like you, and I'm just wondering why it couldn't be possible.
Well, the problem is everybody's pulling and tugging from different directions. Getting people on the same wavelength, getting people out of like my issue. Me personally, I can speak for me personally. Me not being a religious person, and me being in a community that's heavily based in religion. It tends to, for somebody like myself, it becomes difficult to find a group to be a part of when most of these groups are based and centered around religion. And so
And do you
that
think
becomes
that's
an
a
issue.
help? Do you think that's been a help or a hindrance for the Black community collectively?
Religion,
Yes.
definitely a hindrance. Definitely a hindrance by far. Yes.
And
One of
and
the
why
biggest problems why we can't. One of the biggest problems why we can't get on the same page is religion.
and why would you say that? Just because of different what they claim, or do you think it's like a stronghold? What do you mean?
Stronghold,
Okay.
mental stronghold. Um, Everybody has to follow their God. If you want to be a part of us, you have to follow these laws, statutes, and commandments. And then you go over here. Okay, well, I can't do all that. All right, then fine. You go across the street. Go over here. You want to follow us? You gotta get down with this Quran. You got to do this, that, and third. Okay, well, I can't get down with that. You go over here. Okay, you follow us. You got to believe we're the Aboriginal people of this land and everything else. And black isn't even nothing but a color and all this other little silly nonsense. Okay, I can't mess with y'all. Okay, so I go over, so no matter where I go, it's like, okay, it's like really hard to try to find people that aren't centered and based behind some silly ideology that's to me is silly, and I'm not going to be a part of it. But that's all they want to do, and that's all they want to center a whole movement behind is indoctrinating people with their belief systems. And that's the problem. What are we worrying about belief systems for? Belief systems ain't going to get us anywhere, because if it was all about belief and faith and getting right with God and everything else, we wouldn't be in the situation we was in right now, because nobody's more spiritual than black people in this planet. And I'll challenge anybody who thinks anything different. Everybody, like me being a black atheist, I can tell you this is I am a minority within a minority. You don't catch black atheists. Y'all don't see them. Unless you online
Yeah.
somewhere. And like, no, you don't see that. Like, everybody believes in God in my community. So this is something that's deeply rooted since slavery. Actually, even before slavery, but since slavery, it's been real bad, because then that's when we got indoctrinated fully with this Bible. And we so entrenched with this Bible, and this Bible teaches us to be docile, which is also a problem for me. It teaches us not to fight back, and that's a problem. And these things, it's definitely a hindrance. Religion more so than anything.
Okay, so religion's a big one. Um, the next thing I wanted to ask you about is something that I really can't figure out. I haven't read a lot of books, but in regards to this, they have the whole crab in a barrel concept. Like for me, I don't look at different people or people that look like me or don't, whatever, and want to see their demise. Okay. I'm wondering, where would you say that concept comes from?
The crab in the barrel mentality.
Yes, the crab in a
Oh,
barrel.
man, that's deep. Um, Jealousy, envy. These are traits that everybody has. I don't think this is something that's exclusive to Black people. Everybody, it affects us the most because of the situation that we're in. But this is something that everybody suffers from, right? Every group of people has their haters, right? Everybody, you see
Right.
people you had the whole term keeping up with the Joneses, right? That whole
Mhm.
term is there for a reason, right? Because people see that what the Joneses have and they want what the Joneses have, so they got to keep up with them. So they feel like they got to get what they got, right? This is all stems from jealousy and everything else. Now, some people, when they see something and they get envious or jealous of something, usually they'll just some people will get there and they'll try to get and achieve the same thing that that person has, and if they can't, then they'll try to knock it down, because it's something that they secretly want. So you have these type of mentalities going on in all ethnic groups, but like I said, it affects us the most because we're trying to actually get ourselves out of a hole. So we can afford this whole crab in the barrel mentality, and it tends to rear its ugly head at the wrong times. And it's a lot of other little silly reasons as well. I feel like I'm just going to call it what it is. I feel like a lot of Black people got a lot of Black guilt. I feel like there's a lot of Black guilt out there, and I feel like our people suffer deeply from Black guilt, and I think that's a problem.
What do you mean by exactly by Black guilt?
Black guilt. Uh, Kind of like, well, when a Black person, so let's say such as myself, is let's say I'm arguing with a white supremacist, right? About whatever, we can be arguing about let's say Black on Black crime statistics, right? So which is a
Okay.
popular talking point, right? We arguing about Black on Black crime statistics and everything else, this, that, and the third. And I'm over here and I'm making valid points and everything, and that the white supremacist actually has to concede to. And in the midst of him conceding to these points, it'll be another Black person there who all of a sudden, boom, they feel Black guilt because they see that the white person has conceded to talking points that I had, and that makes him feel uncomfortable because he sees that the white person is, is pretty much, in an awkward position. So that Black guilt starts to take over, and they feel like they need to defend the white person and start arguing with me about statistics that I obviously is, jaded. Yeah, I just proved was jaded, but that Black person felt some guilt, so he felt the need to jump up and defend the white person. That
Well, see,
is Black
okay.
guilt.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
No,
No,
go
when
ahead.
I look at that situation, and I've been in it before, I feel guilty for people. And I'm not saying in this scenario what you're talking about. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying in general, if I feel like someone is getting like attacked or jumped on, like it's unfair, or even by instinct, um, just looking outside, if I were to see which has happened before, somebody to get potentially jumped, I'm gonna go help, even if I'm outnumbered. So what my question is do you think that it's out of a quote unquote Black guilt, or is it just empathy, like having empathy for the other person?
No, it's Black guilt because they wouldn't do it any other time in any other type of situation. That's not what they. If the white if a white person was or if white supremacist was arguing with me, and the white supremacist made some valid points on me and had me in a situation where I didn't have too much to say after what he said, they're not going to jump up and say, "Well, hold up now, blah 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 blah." No, they're going to sit there and let me fry.
Got it. Okay.
Right. But being that it
That's
was
what
the other way around and everything else, they feel the need to jump up and defend the white guy because they feel like I'm being unfair or I'm doing X, Y, and Z. You know, I don't know, whatever the case may be. They just people suffer from black guilt for different reasons. I'm not going to, you know,
Right.
it's a case by case basis.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really, I'm not really familiar with that. That's why I'm asking in, different questions
Yeah.
about. I mean, obviously, I've heard a ton of times, um, white guilt, white guilt. I just never heard of black guilt. So I was curious. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the next thing I want to ask you about is culture, because I know culture is something that I've heard other people say. Like for me, example, I'll give one example for myself. I don't really have a quote unquote culture. I mean, I guess if you want to count making lefse once a year with my family culture, okay, but I don't really, you know what I mean? I don't relate to any culture. So I'm kind of curious of how you feel about it as far as like black culture. I mean, when I think of white culture, I don't really have a whole lot of answers, right? I
Mm-hmm.
just think, everybody's different. Some celebrate some things. I don't, some don't celebrate. I don't really think of anything in particular. So, I mean, but then
Always
again,
kind of look at white culture as kind of like a gumbo. This is kind of just jumbled all up into there's a little bit of everybody else's culture just jumbled up at one. That's kind of how I
I
always looked at white culture.
so how do you think black culture would be different than white culture? What would be different about it? Like when you
Um,
think about black culture, what do you think?
well, as far as black culture in this country, a lot of it is gumbo as well. If I'm being honest, a lot of it is gumbo as well, especially if you're looking at like hip hop and everything. The difference is with our gumbo is we kind of like tend to put our own spin on things, right? Like with hip hop, right? Like hip hop, you know, we took a whole bunch of old records that, you know, was either old classics or was never really hits to begin with, but, you know, took them, you know, sampled them, you know, started taking two turntables and started combining beats to make a whole different complete sound and scratching the records, you know, which was something that was never done before, and you know, just figuring that just reinventing the whole art form of DJing. Right before hip hop, DJing was very simple. You go to the radio station, you get your records, you just put it on the turntable, you talk, and then you play the record. That's pretty much what it was. Now DJing is a true art form now, and that's because of hip hop. Right, hip hop actually did that. You know, and like that's black culture, right? You know, like we took something that was already being done, put our own spin on it, and made it something different. You know, so that's what black culture is to me, is originality, because everything that comes out of black culture for the most part is putting our own spin on things or creating something new altogether. That's what black culture is to me, is a whole bunch of original different art forms of dance, fashion, music, ways of cooking, um, language, lingo, everything. You know, like you know, that all these things have happened and been developing since like I said, since slavery. We found different ways of talking. You know, we found different ways of communicating with each other. You know, this is where our slang came from. This is where Ebonics started to come into. You know, we found our own ways of saying certain things and everything. You know, it's called, you know, and it's funny because I hear people, and this triggers me too, especially since I rolled into the whole Ebonics thing and how black people talk and how it gets mocked and everything else. People love mocking our way of speech and our Ebonics, so to speak. And then I'm always being told black people need to learn how to talk proper English. Black people need to learn how to talk proper English. They need to learn how to talk proper English. Why don't y'all speak proper English? Proper English this and proper English that. And I find it very strange coming from people in this country who do not speak proper English. Right. Nobody in this country speaks proper English. Everybody in it, what people call proper English in this country is nothing but Western European slang. It's Western European slang. That's all it is, because people that talk the Queen's English, which is the true English, people that talk the Queen's English all think we talk funny. They all, and then whether you black, white, Latino, whatever, none of us speaking English right. We all speaking it fucked up. We spell our words funny. We don't even spell right. We can't even spell correctly according to them. Look at the way they spell color and look at the way we spell color. Look at the way they spell flavor and look at the way we spell flavor. None of us are speaking or writing proper English. So when I hear people say black people need to speak proper English, I look at them and tell them, you need to speak proper English. When you start speaking proper English, then maybe I'll start speaking it, because I don't hear nobody in this country talk that shit. The only time I ever hear is when I talk to people from the UK.
Right. Yeah. And when I have conversations with people over there, I'm like, what? Huh? What's that?
Mm-hmm.
But I hear what you're saying when you say that proper English, because yeah, we're definitely not speaking proper English.
No, nobody.
So are you political at all?
Yeah, my whole movement is political and social. I don't subscribe to the two-party system, though. I think you know that. Yeah, I don't do the two-party system thing. I definitely think that's a hindrance as well, getting trapped into the whole two-party system fight, which is nothing but pretty much a bunch of it's a hustle, right? It's a con game. It's a shell game that this whole country got everybody playing. Right, because everybody nothing but pawns on their little chessboards. You have a bunch of people up here, the politicians, playing around with a bunch of strings, just maneuvering everybody like a bunch of puppeteers, having them do everything at their little bidding, and having everybody out here fighting against something. Right, everybody's out here fighting against something, and you got the puppeteers loving it because that's what they want. They want everybody out here fighting against something. You got the left out here. The left's out here. Everybody during the whole election. All I heard last year during the whole election was everybody fighting against Donald Trump. We got to take down the evil Donald Trump. Donald Trump's going to destroy the world. He's going to nuke everybody. Every second and third, fear mongering. We got to take out Donald Trump. So everybody on the left was fighting against Donald Trump. That's what the whole movement was about. Then I go over here on the right. Everybody on the right, they fighting against everything. They fighting against the evil leftists, the pedophiles, the Antifers and the BLMs. They fighting against everybody, right? Everybody, they all must go down. They evil, they terrorist organizations, and this, that, and the third. Everybody, the entire time I'm sitting back watching the entire 2020, I'm watching everybody fighting against everything, and nobody's fighting for nothing. Wasn't nobody fighting for nothing. I asked all them leftists and Democrats and everything else, okay, boom, let me ask you this. If Donald Trump loses this coming election, what do you expect from Biden's administration? What is it that you expect within the next 4 years if your man actually wins? All of them was dumbfounded. None of them didn't have a real answer. Little silly ass answers like, I just want COVID to be over. Simple ass shit like that, dumb shit like regardless of who president was, they ain't going to try to end COVID. Like that's silly. Like that vague answer. That's all you care about. That's all you're going to expect in the next 4 years. Well, now he's failing at it right now, so I guess they should be very disappointed at that. And then I ask people on the right, well, if Donald Trump gets reelected, what is it that you expect for the next 4 years? And then they get dumbfounded. They don't really have any answer. Well, I don't really care as long as Joe Biden don't get in office and them pedophiles get stopped and blah, 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 and everything else. And it's like, this is ridiculous. Like, y'all don't even realize the mind fuck that y'all are in right now. Y'all don't even realize these puppeteers back here pulling all y'all strings, got all y'all back here fighting against everything, and ain't near none of y'all fighting for nothing. And that's how all these laws and bills and policies are getting passed right under y'all noses, because they got y'all caught up in the mind fuck of fighting against every motherfucking thing, and ain't nobody fighting for nothing. This is a problem. And it's because they got this little bullshit ass two-party system where they can play these little silly games, play this little it's us versus them mentality against the world, and have everybody thinking it's us against them, and the entire time they all fucking everybody over. And nobody seems to see this, and it's frustrating because I try to tell people this, and they're like, yeah, you're right, but if I do it your way, then that means the other side's going to win, and I don't want the other side to win. So blah 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 blah. It's like, oh, see, you still stuck. You still stuck. Yeah. You don't get it. Like you don't. That's how you are exactly where the fuck they want you right now.
I think a lot of, you know what I will say. I don't want to say a lot, but I think there are some of us, high numbers, that are waking up to that slowly but surely. I just wish more of us could get on one accord. And I think a lot of us are looking at it from a perspective of, okay, we have to make the best decision for what's going to be most, quote unquote, comfortable. You know what I mean? Basically picking a lesser evil. That's all.
That's what they want y'all to do. That's what they want. They want people with that lesser than evil mentality, because again, that gets you fight. That they got y'all doing exactly what they want. They got y'all fighting against shit. It's got you fighting against shit, because if you're picking the lesser of two evils, that means they got you in the mode of fighting against something instead of fighting for something. And because people like people like, oh, you threw your vote away, and this, that, and third last election. You threw your vote away. You voted for who? Howard Hawkins. Why the fuck would you vote for him? Like, well, he was the only motherfucker running on the ticket that even mentioned reparations. He's the only motherfucker. Howard Hawkins. Howard Hawkins. He was the only. He ran Green Party. He ran Green Party last time. Now, I'm not a Green Party person, right? I'm independent. But he was the only one on the ticket, because I actually, unlike everybody else, I actually listened to what people were running under, right? What policies are you trying to push? I'm not fighting against anything. I don't care about these little silly left versus right games. What policies are you talking about? You know, what's your agenda, right? So I actually listen to everybody's agenda, libertarians, Green Parties, everybody. And he was the only one that even entertained reparations. Now he didn't run under we going to get reparations, but he did mention reparations. That was in his agenda. So because of that, he got my vote. And you know, because again, I'm out here voting for things. I'm not voting against things.
Yeah, we do agree that the way they approached that whole HR 40 bill was a shit show in front of Congress.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought they had the wrong representation, first of all, okay, and in my opinion. And it wasn't, they were ill prepared. They weren't prepared, period. Just speaking from what I saw. But
it was a song and dance. It was a way to pacify black people because it was election year. It was all bullshit.
And now it seems like, I don't know if you know, I haven't been able to look through this 2,000-page bill and see everything, but from what I heard, you know, remember we were talking before, I don't know if you verified that. I haven't had a chance to, about the money going to some of the illegals that felt like they were treated unfairly. I think we talked about that before. But
yeah, I still don't know the full story on that, but I definitely am triggered over the ideal of giving these people $450,000, and they still crying about how they don't have no money to pay us anything, and we still doing studies and all this other little silly nonsense. Like, I honestly, I'm sick of the Dog and Pony show, and I'm sick of the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm sick of them. People need to stop playing games, and we missed a huge opportunity this last election to hold people's feet to the fire, and we got hit with the banana in the tailpipe yet again, and it's so frustrating because I know it's going to happen again in 2024 because my people just don't seem to grasp what's going on and the mind games that are being played. I thought they were starting to wake up, but then as soon as it came down to crunch time, they was talking good shit for the first 3 quarters. For the first 3 quarters, they was talking good shit. But then when it got down to the last 5 minutes of the game, they folded. They folded. They started turning the ball over. They started missing, shooting air balls, everything else, and they converted right back to the bullshit. So as soon as it came down to crunch time, it came back down to, yeah, well, we could hold our votes and everything else another time. We got to get down Trump out of office. We got to get down Trump out of office. That's all we got to worry about. And
that was what's up with the East Coast cats wanting Donald Trump gone so bad that they were just willing to vote anybody. I'm just curious. It seems like I hear that a lot out of the East Coast more than any other place.
Well, that was the messaging. That was the messaging coming from out of here. I mean, especially coming from the entertainers and the stuff from out here. You kidding me? Puffy, Talib Kweli, and all these other Myson and all these other little entertainers. We in my community, we can't. What the entertainers say matters. What the entertainers say matters in my community. Unfortunately.
I'm going opposite. Whatever them entertainment people say, I'm going the opposite way. But that's just me. I don't know. But no, I hear you. They have a big influence. I mean, if Biden is going to sit down and talk to a Cardi B, are you serious? That is not, I mean, okay, if she was selected to be a representation of the Black community, I don't know how, but all right, whatever, I just thought that was extremely corny. But anyway, the last thing I want to touch on before we leave is the biracial dynamic. And the reason I ask you this, I know how you stand on it. And the only thing that I'm not saying that I necessarily disagree with you, but my question for you is, I get that you see them as biracial, right? Not,
yes.
What is it? The Genome Project, whatever the Black dad.
Please don't listen to RBR. He's so pseudo.
But my question is, he said he's so pseudo. It's funny. You're right. But my question is this, is that if society as a whole is not going to recognize them as non-Black, how would you expect them to move? Because, for example, I can even use my own son. There's no way on God's green earth that he is ever going to be able to move in society as quote unquote anything other than being seen as Black. So I'm just wondering what is your idea behind that? Do you just do you think there should be like a completely different group, like a whole new checkbox on the application?
Well, they already petitioned to actually had that happen on the U.S. Census not that long ago. So this movement's out there to actually have this happen, and it's not coming from people like myself. It's actually coming from biracial people. They actually have, believe it or not, they have a whole biracial movement right here on YouTube. They call themselves the Golden Race or something like that, or whatever the case may be. So yeah,
did you just say the Golden Race?
Yeah, that's what they call themselves, as a bunch of biracials. That's talking about biracial problems and all this other stuff, everything else. I'll sneak my head up in there every now and then to see what they're talking about. But I support them though. I actually support them. I don't have no issues with them doing that. They get a little bit they start talking a little bit crazy every now and then, but I don't say nothing. I mind my business. They little space, but yeah, they got their little space. And it's funny because like, people think I developed these ideals, like I done watched one too many YouTube videos and all of a sudden I just came up with these ideals or whatever the case may be. And that's totally like not the case. These are people that just don't know me. But yeah, I used to tell my friends and everything else long time ago. I went to in high school. I went to a predominantly white high school for basketball purposes, right? So I used to be a kid that used to have to get up extra early just to catch the bus all the way out to a whole like 3 towns over just to go to school. I went to a predominantly white high school and everything else, and there wasn't a lot of black girls there. There was some, but not a lot. And people used to ask like, yo, did you ever mess with one of these white girls? You ever date one of these white girls? Whatever the case may be. And I told them, and some of the brothers would say, yeah, it'd be like a group of us, whatever, from the basketball team, whatever. And they get around to me, I'd be like, nah, I wouldn't. And they used to be like, why? What's right? They used to look at me like, like, what's wrong with you? And I like, nah. And the reason, my reason kind of blew their mind, but I told them because I don't really want to have a biracial child. Like that's something that, because I had thought about that. I thought about like as something I thought about even before high school. And so even by high school, I knew I didn't want a biracial child. And reason being is because I felt like that'll be a rough space for the biracial child to be in.
You're right. No, you are absolutely right, Psycho. And I know people that have went through it, especially the ones that were born in the 70s. Okay. Now I would say the ones that I know that were born in the 90s, not so much. I guess there's people out there that say that they have issues or whatever, but I just found out within the last year, my son was telling me that amongst biracials, there's a colorism issue. I was like, what? So even that's something that they have going on amongst each other. So,
right.
know,
and when I said that though, like this, like when I said that, I wouldn't want to have a biracial child, and I was explaining why and everything, and he was like, well, why will be the problem with that? It'll be your baby. Baby still be black. It's your baby, because this is the perception, right? This is the perception socially in this country, right? In this country, because this is the only country that actually holds this whole one drop narrative and everything. You go outside this country, people do not call mixed people black, but in this country, it is like that. But because of that, people, they like, it's your baby, so the baby will still be black. And I was like, nah, not really. Baby's going to be half black, half white, and everything else. I'm just explaining this because, unbeknownst to some people know, some people don't. I actually have a biracial cousin, right? Like, so I have a biracial cousin, and I had this biracial cousin back. Even then, I had that biracial cousin, right? I'm his older cousin, but he was born when I was younger, and he kind of he doesn't disown his Italian heritage, right? Like he's half Italian, half black. He doesn't disown his Italian heritage, nor should he, right? He shouldn't, right? And anything else, but certain times and everything else, I just kind of noticed he was struggling with his identity a little bit, kind of, sort of, a little bit. Nothing that he ever said to me. I just noticed certain things, and I'll be careful not to say certain things or do certain things around him or whatever. Just a little bit different, like we'll be talking about certain things, and he might feel a little bit uncomfortable or whatever. So we fall back from talking about it that much and everything else. It's just, I saw the struggles that he had, and that kind of stuck with me. So, no, I didn't want to have a biracial child. And I also, I just saw, and I also started questioning the whole ideal of this whole one drop rule and just somebody automatically being black just because they got a black parent. I started questioning it even then.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I know there was some history there, and you have talked about it. You talked about it before, which you know I'm sure it makes some people very angry. Some probably don't care, and some agree. You're always gonna have that. What can you do? Um, that's not gonna change anybody from claiming who they are. So I don't think different opinions are bad. I just think, hey, if if you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. It doesn't mean that it's gonna make it's like if I don't agree with your opinion, both of our lives are still gonna continue the same way. You know what I mean? I can't
Right.
affect yours, and you can't affect mine. So, I mean,
Right.
it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, it's just like like when you look at the history of why this country calls mixed people black, and you start understanding the reasoning behind it and how this whole thing developed and how it got so normalized in this country that you almost looked at crazy if you challenge it. It's almost like you talking about somebody's God or something like that. That's the only other reaction I might get that's stronger than me saying mixed people ain't black. Like the only stronger reaction I get than that is if I talked about somebody's God. Because it's mind blowing how reactionary people are off that conversation. They get very emotional, and it's just and again, it's the indoctrination. It's not just black people either. It's not just black people.
No, I used to get extremely mad when people would make comments like that, or say like half breed or mutt or something like that. I
Yeah,
would
but
get
that's an insult. That's an insult. So I can, that's different.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
or to try to take something away from someone, that's like, wait a minute, you can't tell somebody they're not black. I mean, that's I just feel like if you're gonna have a different, I would say a different, in my opinion, a different experience, but also similar, if that makes sense. Your may not be the same, but
yeah.
you're gonna go through similar things.
Some things could be similar. Yes, I agree with that. Some things will be similar, but it won't be the exact same though, because it's things that the biracial person is going to experience that I wouldn't experience because
Right.
I'm not
Right.
biracial.
Yep.
Right. So it's not exactly the same. There's certain similar things. Like, I mean, could they be discriminated on by the police? Absolutely. I'm not saying this because they biracial. They prone to not being harassed by the police or something like that. I'm not going to say something silly like that, right? I'm not going to say that they can't face discrimination in other type of ways outside the police. I'm not going to say that can't happen either. So no, I'm not saying that like biracial, like me saying, "Oh, well, you biracial," that means you didn't experience things that black people experience. No, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I understand. After hearing you talk a few times, I got it. It's funny. I was saying the other day, I said, a lot of people initially, when I would hear them talk, I'd be like, oh, that's so mean. But once you get to, listening for a while, sometimes your opinion will change, and understand that we just don't think alike. We have
Yeah.
different opinions, period. But
I mean, most people never thought to challenge this one. Well, most people don't think about the one drop rule because we all been indoctrinated with it since kids. Or everybody, every ethnicity, we've all been indoctrinated with that since kids, and most people never challenged it. And so, like now that, and these are taboo topics that has been discussed. This ain't a new topic that is just now being discussed. This is something in our community, at least, has always been discussed, but it's always been discussed behind closed doors. And it kind of was a taboo topic, so it wasn't something that we discussed on a regular basis. It was a taboo topic that was discussed behind closed doors every so often. But with the power of social media, these topics are no longer behind closed doors, and it's less and less taboo to talk about this topic now. So now the topic is just like, it's more prevalent now because of social media, but it's something that was always going on behind the scenes, at least in our community. Yeah.
I didn't know, truth be told, I didn't know that all these areas in YouTube exist. Okay. I didn't know there was such a thing as a white nationalist area on here. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know.
Over there too.
They know you over there too.
Oh yeah, yeah. Arguing with them dudes. Yeah. They know me.
Yeah. I didn't even know that existed. So I'm sure there's a ton of stuff on YouTube I have no idea about, you know?
Yeah, you'd be amazed how many sectors and everything else is over here. Pretty much whatever you're looking for. They got maybe a small might be a small sector, but they have a little small sector pretty much for whatever you're looking for on here. It's there.
Yeah. I guess so. I think some things I don't even want to dare to put in the search bar, but I appreciate you, Psycho, for coming on and talking with me and answering the questions.
No doubt.
I think you need to pre-record your dad again. I'm going to keep saying it.
Yeah, I got to give him a call.
Yeah, he is intriguing to listen to. You know, my attention span is short, but there's certain people I can listen to, and I listened to the whole conversation, so it was good.
Yeah. We got a few things on Patreon. I need to get some more though.
Well, I appreciate you, and thanks everybody for coming by. We're gonna get out of here. So everyone have a good evening. Thanks again, Psycho. I'm sure I'll run across you soon somewhere.
All right. No doubt.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, everyone.